long before humanity walked the earth, before the great flood reshaped our world. 3 colossal creatures ruled the realms of creation, monsters so vast, so incomprehensibly powerful, only God himself could control them. They are the Bible's forgotten titans, the Behemoth, master of the land, the Leviathan, terror of the deep sea, and last but not least, the Ziz, sovereign of the skies. These are not mere legends, they're documented in scripture, elaborated in ancient Jewish texts, and preserved in fragments recovered from the Dead Sea caves. In the Book of Enoch, written over 2,000 years ago, we learn there was a single cataclysmic day in history. 2 primordial monsters were separated. The Leviathan, the female sea beast, was cast into the abyssal depths, while the Behemoth, the unconquerable male, was banished to an invisible desert called Duidain. Duidain was east of the Garden of Eden itself. We begin with the Behemoth. In the book of Job, God himself describes this creature to a suffering man, demanding, "Behold now, Behemoth, which I made with thee." This was no ordinary animal. Its tail moved like a mighty cedar tree. Its bones were tubes of bronze, its limbs like bars of iron. It drank rivers without fear. Confident even when the Jordan rushed against its mouth, God called it the first of his works, the supreme masterpiece of creation. The Talmud tells us that every summer solstice, the Behemoth unleashes a thunderous roar that echoes across the world. A sound so terrifying all predators on earth become less ferocious for an entire year. Without this annual reminder of divine power, the sages warned, animals would grow ever more violent until creation itself collapsed into chaos. Let's shift our focus now to the Leviathan. Even the Behemoth pales before its counterpart in the sea, Leviathan. A creature so terrible, the Book of Job dedicates 34 verses to its description. This was no crocodile. This was a fire-breathing sea dragon with impenetrable scales, each shield locked so tightly that not even air could pass between them. Flames stream from its mouth, Scripture tells us. Smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot. Rabbi Yohanan recorded that the Leviathan stretched 300 miles in length. When hungry, the heat from its breath made the entire ocean boil. Its eyes blazed with such brilliance that sailors mistook their glow for the dawn. The Jordan River itself flowed directly into its mouth. This creature ruled the Mediterranean, dwelling above the fountains of the deep, a living nightmare that even angels feared to face alone. The last creature to be discussed is the Ziz. Yes, there was a third creature, one that history has nearly erased, the Ziz, king of all birds, guardian of the heavens. This colossal griffin-like beast stood with its ankles resting on the ocean floor while its head scraped the ceiling of the sky. Its wingspan was so vast it could blot out the sun itself, casting the entire world into shadow. The Babylonian Talmud preserves a chilling account. A group of sailors once spotted what they thought was shallow water. They saw a giant bird standing with waves lapping gently at its ankles. Believing they could safely cool themselves, they prepared to dive in. Then a voice from heaven thundered a warning, "Do not descend." It was also told a carpenter's axe once slipped from a man's hand at this very spot. That was 7 years prior. The same axe had been sinking ever since, and it has still not reached the bottom. The bird they saw was the Ziz, standing in depths so vast that an object could fall continuously for 7 years without ever touching the floor beneath. Once, a single egg of the Ziz fell from its nest. The fluid from the egg flooded 60 cities. The impact shattered 300 cedar trees. If one egg could cause such devastation, what power did the monstrous creature itself possess? The Dead Sea Scrolls, recovered from caves near Qumran, contain fragments of a lost text called the Book of Giants. In these ancient pages, we find a world before the flood, a world where fallen angels called Watchers descended from heaven and took human wives. Their offspring? The Nephilim, giants of terrifying power. Watch our Giants of the Bible documentary where we explore this topic in depth. According to these ancient texts, even these mighty giants trembled before creatures like Leviathan. The giants received prophetic dreams warning of their doom. They sent an emissary named Maweh to seek the prophet Enoch. He revealed their fate. Divine judgment was coming. The archangel Raphael would lead 4 angels against them. In one fragment, we read of a great battle involving Oya, the monster Leviathan, and the angel Raphael. The text suggests these primordial beasts played roles in cosmic conflicts lost to mainstream history. But why did these monsters exist? Ancient Jewish tradition reveals a profound purpose. The Behemoth, the Leviathan, and the Ziz were not agents of chaos. They were guardians of cosmic balance. Each ruled their domain. Land, sea, and sky, each kept the other creatures in check. At the beginning of every season, summer, autumn, and winter, they performed a sacred ceremony. The behemoth would roar. The Ziz would scream. The Leviathan would stir the waves. These warnings reminded every living creature not to multiply beyond measure, not to grow so powerful the world's delicate balance would shatter. Some traditions tell us after the war in heaven, when Lucifer fell, creation itself became corrupted. The three titans turned against each other in savage combat. Their warfare threatened to destroy the three layers of earth and all life within them. God was forced to intervene, separating these mighty siblings, locking them away until the end of days. And what awaits these creatures at the end of time? Jewish apocalyptic tradition describes an extraordinary prophecy. When the Messiah comes, the Behemoth and the Leviathan will be released from their prisons. They will engage in one final cataclysmic battle, two equals locked in mortal combat. With his horns, the Behemoth will gore mightily. With her fins, the Leviathan will counter with devastating power. Neither can defeat the other. Both will perish. And then the Creator himself will approach with his mighty sword and complete the slaughter. From Leviathan's beautiful scales, God will fashion canopies to shelter the righteous. The flesh of all three titans, the Behemoth, Leviathan, and Ziz, will be served at a spectacular banquet in heaven, a feast for the faithful who kept God's commandments throughout their lives. And what wine could possibly accompany such a meal? Only one vintage is worthy. Wine God himself has preserved since the 6 days of creation, stored in celestial vaults for this very occasion. The Talmud records this Messianic wine was poured only once before, when Jacob needed wine for his father Isaac, and an angel provided it from the stores reserved for the end of days. At the final feast, the righteous will sit at tables inlaid with precious stones, surrounded by rivers of balsam, dining on the flesh of primordial titans and drinking wine older than humanity itself. But the feast is not the only reward. Ancient text states that those righteous who abstained from pagan entertainments during their lives will receive a special honor. They will be permitted to participate in the hunting of the Leviathan and the Behemoth before the banquet begins. The archangel Gabriel himself will be charged with slaying the sea dragon, yet even he will fail. Only then will God approach with his mighty sword to finish what angels could not. And what of Leviathan's remains? The remainder will be stretched across the walls of Jerusalem itself. Its radiance will be so brilliant that the entire world will be illuminated by its glow. Nations will walk by its light. Kings will be drawn to its brightness. The monster that once terrorized the deep will become an eternal beacon of divine triumph.